Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. I'm sitting here on Wednesday. I was able to watch the first episode of Who Killed WCW on Spike. No, it wasn't on Spike. Spike is what the TNN turned into. It's on Vice. That's a throwback right there. Remember when WWE Monday Night Raw used to be on Spike back in the day, and TNA and all that jazz? But Vice, pretty much your one-stop shop for other wrestling entertainment other than AEW or WWE. Really big fan of the Beyond the Ring series. They've had a lot of good episodes that are sneaky good. Episodes that really I didn't know about wrestling, and really dove deep into them after I saw the episodes. But this Who Killed WCW? I will honestly tell you, I came in with huge expectations. Their commercials, basically a lot of the press. I heard Brian Gewirtz. He was on Cheap Heat, the podcast with Rosenberg. I guess it was today. I listened to it today, at least. And he talked about telling the story that WWE didn't tell you. Like, we're supposed to get the other side of the story if WCW would have won the war, or at least the WCW side of what is going down. Lots of talking heads. I was really surprised to see The Rock. Episode 1, we heard a lot from Eric Bischoff, Kevin Nash, Booker T, Kevin Sullivan, Guy Evans, who wrote the Nitro book. Kind of surprised, kind of not surprised that there was no Brian Alvarez, no Artie Reynolds from the Death of WCW book that came out probably close to 20 years ago now. Meltzer has done stuff Beyond the Ring. I really thought they would have got his side of the story. They get a lot of flack for writing that book because, it's not Dave Meltzer. I think it's finally came out that Eric Bischoff, all the negative press that he did about that book, he's never even read the book, never even tried. That came out after the whole StarCast ordeal with him and RD having their debate out there at the StarCast shows. But I can honestly tell you, the first episode was nothing more of the Nitro coming to be with Eric Bischoff. Getting asked, well, first of all, it was like Eric Bischoff getting his job in the company after leaving the AWA in Vern Gagne and getting the job to be an executive and not really know what WCW was before he even went there to be an announcer. He was an outside source to get it. Just basically they wanted to give the job to somebody that wasn't a wrestler with a wrestling mind. He had a mind for sales, and they said, why not? It can't be worse than what they're doing now. And him, bringing in Hulk Hogan, and then Ted Turner still not being satisfied with being the number 2 company, and Bischoff being backed in the corner to basically say that he needs the show to go up against Monday Night Raw. And Turner giving him 2 hours of TNT to go right up against Monday Night Raw and give us the birth of the Monday Night War. He's got Hogan there, and that's kind of what they're building off of, and then hitting a home run with the NWO storyline. They don't really go into where the NWO storyline came from, who thought it up, where it comes from. There's a few different thoughts. Some people say that it was blatantly ripped off from Japan, who was running a closed storyline at the time. Some people say that it was thought up by Kevin Sullivan. And some people say that Eric Bischoff, dreamed it up when Kevin Nash as well as Scott Hall signed with the company, that they would try and make it look like WWE was invading. But they just build up the NWO. They get us pretty much to Sting and Starrcade. And I'll tell you the truth, there was nothing in this episode that wasn't in the rise and fall of WCW. I keep on thinking that's not the name of the documentary that WWE came out with. There's really nothing. It's almost like just copy and pasted from being there. That came out roughly in the early 2000s, Kevin Nash would have been with the company, so I'm pretty sure he's one of the talking heads there. We've all seen the Eric Bischoff Monday Night Raw episode interview that they've run 1,000 times on 1,000 different documentaries. The one thing that they were really touching on is they really wanted everybody to know in the early days of WCW that Diamond Dallas Page worked there, Scott Hall worked there, and Kevin Nash worked there all at the same time. DDP, the way I worded it in a tweet really wasn't exactly the way that I wanted it to be. That all three of those guys were nowhere close to over in the early days of WCW. DDP ran a really good storyline where he lost all of his riches. He regained them after winning the what was the name of that gimmick? It was some sort of like ring. It was like, it wasn't the king of the ring, but the winner actually wore a ring, a lot like the one that MJF won in AEW. That was kind of like when he got it back on track. And, you know, he just kept plugging away and he kept trying hard. He was like the little engine that could, the guy that wouldn't die. And the NWO storyline is what really got him over as being one of the main guys at WCW. That he gained a lot of his success. I don't know how many times he was a WCW champion. I want to say it was like 2, 3. It could have been more the way they were hot potatoing that belt around. But I can really remember twice him winning that belt and really meaning something. Scott Hall wrestled as the Diamond Stud. He was managed by DDP. I don't think he was ever anywhere close to over, and they showed 1,000 different gimmicks that Kevin Nash had. They gave him his first break. He came in, he was Oz, Vinny Vegas. He was a member of the Master Blasters. I can't remember what his name was in that tag team, but none of those were over, to the point where he just walked in and told Kevin Sullivan that he wanted his release after he had been contacted by the WWF, that they wanted to bring him in and be the muscle to Shawn Michaels. You know, Nash just went in and said he wasn't making enough money. He was going to go back to working in the strip clubs and, provide for his family. And they just, okay, see you later. Gave him his release. And next thing you know, he's, showing up and being the bodyguard for Shawn. They took the time to build him up as Diesel. He actually started wrestling. He won the Intercontinental title. Teamed up with Shawn to become Dudes with Attitudes. Him and Shawn started a storyline where basically Shawn was starting to get jealous of him. Diesel goes off and wins the WWF title before Shawn Michaels does. They main event WrestleMania against each other. It took all of that to make Kevin Nash the star that he is now, and he made a lot of money for WWF. He made a lot more for WCW. The one thing is, when they touched on Starrcade, they talk to Bret Hart, who talks about the finish. They don't even bring up how Bret came to be in WCW. They don't need to go over the Montreal. They don't need to go over the screw job. They need to talk about how big of a free agent signing Bret Hart was. Even though he sort of got into a lot of trouble with Vince and Shawn and wanted his way out, WCW didn't have to sign him. It's not like Bret was going to go to ECW or go wrestle in Japan, but it still took a lot of money to sign him. And they didn't even really talk about the fact that Turner gave Eric Bischoff basically a blank check, to the point where he had so many wrestlers under contract that he could have an event called World War III where they could have 90 guys wrestle in the main event. And some of those guys didn't even wrestle on the undercard. So they were fresh for the main event. So they probably had like 100 guys plus, not even developmental guys and guys that were injured at the time. That's a huge roster for a company, for any wrestling company that even has a 3-hour show. on Mondays, even when they had the point where they had the 2-hour show on Thursdays, they had the 1-hour show on the weekends. How are you going to get all those guys on there? They were wasting a lot of money. But I'm going to give it its chances. Just as a 4-part series, I think they kind of wasted the first one. I know you got to set the table, but I was kind of looking for a lot more jazz. I was looking for a lot more meat on the bone. I'm really looking forward to the last episode, about the last episode of Monday Nitro, when they actually kill it. But I don't know. I'll tell you the truth. It was pretty much the same thing as watching the rise and fall of WCW in there. And let me know if that's what you guys think, because I don't know. I didn't get a ton.